A man's entire world can begin to change in one unexpected moment, and often he does not even realize it at first. The approach that seemed to work with every woman before suddenly loses its influence. His confidence begins to weaken. His certainty starts to fade, and every carefully learned strategy quietly falls apart. In that moment, he realizes something that deeply unsettles him. This woman was never competing for his attention. She was never pretending, chasing, or trying to prove herself. She simply refuses to perform. Her presence alone quietly invites him to stop running from who he truly is. She does not seek validation or build her worth around another person's approval because she already recognizes her own value. Without announcing it, she becomes the standard. In a world filled with noise, comparison, and endless competition, she remains calm and grounded. That quiet confidence immediately tells him he has met someone truly rare. She is not louder, harsher, or more dramatic than everyone else. What makes her unforgettable is the deep sense of peace she carries in a world addicted to chaos. Her energy reflects his true self back to him, perhaps more honestly than anyone ever has. Carl Jung believed that one of the greatest fears a person can experience is facing their authentic self without illusion. That is exactly what happens when a man stands before a woman like this. It is not her strength that frightens him. It is the hidden parts of himself that suddenly become impossible to ignore. Without saying much, she quietly exposes the dreams he abandoned, the fears he buried, and the truths he has spent years avoiding. While others compete to be noticed, she moves with quiet confidence. While many demand instant answers, she trusts the wisdom of patience. While countless people wait to be chosen, she has already chosen herself. That steady and grounded energy forces every man into a decision. He must either grow into a better version of himself or walk away. There is no comfortable middle ground because she does not compete, argue, or seek attention. She simply exists, and her authentic presence carries more influence than manipulation ever could. The first quality that separates an unforgettable woman from an ordinary one is her composure. This is not about hiding emotions or pretending not to care. True composure is emotional self-control. It is understanding that emotions offer guidance, not commands that must always be followed. It is knowing that silence often speaks louder than raised voices, and that inner peace can affect someone far more deeply than emotional outbursts ever will. When a man meets a woman who refuses to react impulsively, who does not lose herself in fear, insecurity, or constant overthinking, he becomes deeply unsettled. He has grown used to emotional drama, jealousy, endless arguments, and desperate chasing. Instead, he finds calm. He expects conflict, but she responds with clarity. He expects emotional instability, yet she remains consistent. He expects fear, but she radiates quiet confidence. In a world where chaos is often mistaken for passion, genuine peace becomes something extraordinary. A composed woman says more through her presence than through endless words. Her greatest strength is self-mastery. She refuses to let anxiety, mood swings, ego, or outside pressure control her choices. Every response is intentional instead of driven by fear. Her silence is not weakness or avoidance. It is wisdom shaped by self-awareness. That kind of presence becomes deeply magnetic because it shows that her emotional state is not controlled by another person's actions. People driven by ego constantly feel the need to defend themselves, win every disagreement, or manipulate situations to stay in control. She has no interest in those games. She allows time to reveal the truth naturally. She watches people show their true character while remaining firmly grounded in her own. That quiet steadiness changes everything. He realizes he cannot provoke her, manipulate her, or draw her into emotional battles. She becomes the calm center of every storm instead of becoming part of it. Deep down, that is exactly what so many people are searching for. Her composure reveals something even more powerful. She's not attracted to emotional chaos because she understands that intensity is not the same as intimacy. Real love does not constantly demand attention through confusion or emotional highs and lows. Genuine love is dependable, patient, and peaceful. So when he creates uncertainty through distance, silence, or inconsistency, she does not fall apart. She does not chase or lose herself trying to understand his behavior. She simply observes. She takes a breath. She protects her inner peace. That is the moment everything begins to change. He realizes he cannot shake her foundation because she is emotionally independent rather than emotionally fragile. She understands that true strength does not belong to the loudest person in the room. It belongs to the one who stays centered while everything around them is falling into chaos. He has spent much of his life expecting people to answer intensity with greater intensity, confusion with more confusion, and emotional chaos with emotional chaos. Instead, he finds someone who reflects him with honesty and clarity. Like a clear mirror, she quietly encourages him to face himself. By remaining calm, she breaks every pattern he believed would always work. As he spends more time around her, he slowly realizes something important. She is not trying to control anyone because she has already mastered the only person she truly can, herself. This is not arrogance or superiority. It is self-awareness built through experience. She does not depend on clever words, emotional games, or endless explanations to leave an impression. Her presence speaks before she ever says a word. It is felt in the quiet moments between conversations, in the patience of her silence, and in the calm confidence reflected in her eyes. Her peace carries more influence than endless arguments ever could. Every challenge she faces, whether expected or unexpected, becomes another opportunity to demonstrate emotional maturity. Without speaking, she teaches that true strength is never about overpowering someone else. It is about discipline. It is the ability to pause before responding, to remain centered instead of becoming consumed by emotion. She shows that peace is not weakness. It is the result of deep self-awareness and personal growth. Real strength never needs applause or constant attention. It reveals itself quietly through self-control and shows its greatest power in moments of calm. When he realizes that her serenity is not the result of indifference, but of inner balance and personal growth, respect slowly replaces confusion. Even before he fully understands her, he feels the quiet depth she carries. Her stillness holds a strength that cannot be ignored. That composure also creates an irresistible sense of mystery. In a world where people constantly overshare, overreact, and seek approval, a woman who moves with quiet intention becomes impossible to overlook. She stands apart because she does not feel the need to explain herself to everyone around her. He cannot easily predict her actions or place her into familiar patterns. There is always something deeper beneath the surface. Her presence slows his thoughts and encourages him to reflect instead of rushing to conclusions. Without realizing it, he begins looking at himself more honestly than ever before. That is where true transformation begins. The women who leave the deepest impact are rarely the loudest. They are the ones whose silence carries more meaning than endless conversation, and whose quiet confidence cuts through illusion with remarkable clarity. Depth is one of the rarest qualities a person can possess because it cannot be manufactured or performed. It is not displayed for attention or applause. It exists beneath appearances, beyond shallow conversations, and far below the endless distractions that consume so many lives. Depth turns ordinary moments into meaningful experiences. It transforms simple conversations into opportunities for reflection and allows genuine connection to become a path toward personal growth. When a man meets a woman with true depth, something inside him begins to awaken. What he feels is much greater than excitement or temporary attraction. It is the realization that life can be experienced on a much deeper level. Instead of focusing only on appearances, she quietly encourages him to look within. Carl Jung taught that true clarity begins when a person has the courage to look into their own heart. Those who spend their lives looking only outside themselves continue dreaming, while those willing to look within begin to awaken. That is exactly what a woman with true depth inspires. She awakens the forgotten parts of a man's spirit that have been quietly waiting to be seen. She stirs his desire for purpose, meaning, authenticity, and truth. She does not capture his attention through status, appearance, or loud displays of confidence. Instead, she leaves a lasting impression through thoughtful reflection, sincere curiosity, and meaningful conversations. She asks the kind of questions most people avoid because they require honesty rather than performance. Her goal is never to challenge his ego, but to understand his heart. She listens with complete presence, making him feel heard in a way he may have never experienced before. Every response she gives is thoughtful because she takes time to reflect before speaking. She observes carefully instead of reacting immediately. Where others create distractions, she brings awareness. Where many become absorbed in gossip, she searches for understanding. Where others compete to be the loudest voice in the room, she chooses authenticity over attention. He notices that difference almost immediately. Around her, everything seems to slow down. Silence no longer feels uncomfortable because she understands that quiet moments often express truths that words cannot fully explain. A woman with genuine depth is never afraid of emotional complexity. Difficult conversations do not intimidate her because she knows that growth rarely happens inside comfort. She understands that lasting intimacy is not built on excitement, appearances, or emotional performance. It grows through honesty, vulnerability, trust, and sincere self-reflection. She wants to know what he truly believes, what gives his life meaning, what fears he keeps hidden, and what dreams continue calling him forward. She asks these questions not to criticize or judge, but because she genuinely wants to know the person behind the image. For perhaps the first time, he feels accepted for who he really is, rather than for the role he has been pretending to play. Her depth is rooted in emotional intelligence. She notices what remains unspoken. She hears the hesitation in his voice, recognizes the tension in his body, and understands when anger is really pain, when distance is actually fear, and when pride is protecting an old wound. She can recognize the difference between avoidance and healthy peace, emotional detachment and self-protection, and genuine love and possessiveness. That level of awareness is incredibly rare. Instead of reacting to people's imperfections, she tries to understand where they come from. Rather than condemning weakness, she responds with wisdom. Instead of creating shame, she searches for clarity. Through that clarity, she quietly inspires healing and personal transformation. That kind of awareness is not weakness disguised as kindness. It is wisdom shaped by experience. It is the emotional maturity to remain compassionate instead of becoming competitive, to offer understanding instead of judgment, and to create space instead of trying to control every outcome. She does not rush to conclusions because she understands that every person carries unseen struggles. Her patience allows people to reveal themselves naturally instead of forcing answers before they are ready. In the presence of that depth, a man begins to experience something many people rarely feel: emotional safety. He feels free to lower the walls the world convinced him he always needed. He can speak honestly without fearing ridicule or manipulation because she never uses vulnerability as a weapon. Instead, she treats openness as the foundation of genuine connection. That quiet acceptance transforms him. It raises his expectations for what a meaningful relationship can become and helps him realize how superficial many of his previous experiences truly were. Once someone has experienced a connection built on authenticity, it becomes difficult to return to relationships based only on appearances. That is why she remains unforgettable. She changes him without trying to change him. She simply creates the space for him to discover a version of himself he never wants to lose. Her depth also shows itself through patience. She never rushes emotional closeness or mistakes emotional intensity for genuine intimacy. She understands that the strongest relationships are built gradually through consistency, trust, and shared growth, rather than excitement alone. She gives people room to grow instead of demanding perfection from the very beginning. She is comfortable with silence because she knows meaningful relationships are often strengthened during quiet moments rather than constant stimulation. Carl Jung observed that until the unconscious becomes conscious, it continues directing our lives while we mistake it for fate. A woman with true depth gently brings awareness into every relationship. She refuses to let unconscious patterns quietly control the connection. Instead of responding with pressure, she responds with reflection. Instead of blame, she offers understanding. Instead of forcing change, she encourages self-discovery. Depth should never be confused with perfection. It is the result of life experiences transformed into wisdom, pain transformed into perspective, and healing transformed into quiet strength. She has known heartbreak, disappointment, and loss just like everyone else. The difference is that she refused to let those experiences make her bitter. She allowed them to make her wiser. Rather than running from her wounds, she faced them honestly. She asked difficult questions, confronted uncomfortable truths, and rebuilt herself from the inside out. Because of that journey, she no longer fears imperfection. She values authenticity over appearances, truth over illusion, and substance over performance. Her words carry weight because they come from lived experience rather than borrowed ideas. Everything she says reflects lessons she has personally earned. She loves with intention rather than insecurity, and that difference can be felt without explanation. A man naturally recognizes genuine authenticity because real depth never needs to announce itself. It quietly reveals itself through her actions, her silence, the patience in her eyes, and the calm confidence with which she walks away from anything that no longer matches her values. Every relationship she enters begins moving at a different pace. She slows everything down, allowing honesty to replace performance and meaning to replace distraction. In her presence, a man naturally becomes more thoughtful, more intentional, and more aware of himself. She never pressures him to become a better person. Instead, her own example quietly inspires him to ask why he has been settling for less than his true potential. She becomes a mirror, reflecting the person he could become if he chose growth instead of comfort. That is the remarkable power of genuine depth. It awakens depth in others. Once a person awakens to greater meaning, shallow distractions no longer feel satisfying. Once he has experienced a relationship guided by authenticity instead of ego, ordinary performances lose their appeal. He realizes she is different, not because she is trying to appear extraordinary, but because she has genuinely transformed herself through self-discovery, self-awareness, and emotional maturity. She never demands depth from other people because she naturally lives it. She does not force connection. She patiently allows it to grow. That is why she remains unforgettable. She did not simply touch his emotions. She challenged his thinking, expanded his awareness, awakened his heart, and inspired his personal growth. Very few experiences change someone that deeply. Another defining quality of a woman who has mastered herself is her ability to establish healthy boundaries. Those boundaries are never created from fear, pride, or emotional distance. They exist to protect her peace, preserve her dignity, and honor her self-respect. They are not meant to punish anyone or create unnecessary conflict. They simply provide clarity, and clarity has become increasingly rare in a world filled with confusion and mixed signals. When a man encounters a woman with healthy boundaries, he is immediately faced with something many people try to avoid: personal accountability. He quickly realizes that charm, manipulation, inconsistency, and empty excuses no longer hold any power. A woman who truly values herself does not chase approval, beg for attention, or compromise her self-respect for anyone. She chooses a different path. She chooses peace over chaos, integrity over temporary comfort, self-respect over seeking validation, and genuine connection over unhealthy attachment. Her boundaries reflect her values long before she ever speaks about them. She never needs to announce her standards because they are revealed through every decision she makes, every response she gives, and every quiet moment when she calmly walks away from anything that does not honor the life she has worked so hard to create. When someone reveals their true character, she does not waste her energy arguing with reality. She pays attention, accepts what she sees, and allows her actions to reflect that understanding. While many people react emotionally when their boundaries are crossed, she responds with quiet confidence. She does not raise her voice, beg to be understood, or try to change someone who has already revealed their intentions. Instead, she quietly steps back and returns to her own sense of peace. Her silence is never an escape from conflict. It is an expression of inner strength. The silence of a woman who truly values herself carries more meaning than endless confrontation, because it quietly reminds others that her worth is not something she needs to fight to prove. She already knows it. That realization leaves a lasting impression on a man. He begins to understand that if she ever walks away, it will not be because she lacked love. It will be because he failed to honor the qualities she refused to compromise. He discovers that emotional games have no effect on someone who lives by principles instead of impulses. Distance cannot shake her because she has learned to find peace within her own company. Silence cannot intimidate her because stillness has already become a place of comfort. A woman with healthy boundaries is not afraid of losing another person. What she refuses to lose is herself. That is why she leaves situations that continually disturb her peace. She does not walk away to punish, manipulate, or provoke a reaction. She leaves because experience has taught her that energy never lies. She understands that repeated disrespect never magically turns into respect, and that love without mutual honor eventually becomes unhealthy dependence rather than genuine devotion. She would rather protect her dignity than remain in a relationship that slowly asks her to abandon her identity. That quiet decision, made without anger or revenge, encourages a man to confront himself honestly. Boundaries reveal what words often hide. A man with sincere intentions respects them. A man driven by hidden motives resists them. A man of integrity naturally rises to meet them, while a man ruled by ego tries to challenge or dismantle them. In this way, boundaries become a silent filter, revealing people's true character without requiring endless explanations. She never feels obligated to defend her standards to someone unwilling to respect them. She does not ask permission to protect her peace or explain why her emotional well-being matters. Every choice she makes comes from truth instead of ego, from confidence instead of fear. That quiet certainty becomes deeply attractive because it is rooted in independence rather than desperation. She is not afraid of being alone because she understands that peaceful solitude is far healthier than companionship that slowly weakens her spirit. For her, solitude is not a punishment, but a place of renewal. She knows that loneliness is not simply the absence of other people, it is the absence of a meaningful relationship with oneself. She has invested time in understanding who she truly is, and she refuses to sacrifice that hard-earned inner connection for shallow or inconsistent relationships. Carl Jung once suggested that one of life's greatest privileges is becoming the person you were truly meant to be. A woman with healthy boundaries lives that truth every day. She has become someone she genuinely respects, and because she respects herself, she naturally teaches others to do the same. Her boundaries educate people through actions rather than speeches. She does not threaten, criticize, or lecture. Instead, she quietly removes access from anyone who repeatedly misuses her trust or disregards her values. She understands that her time, energy, and emotional presence are privileges to be earned rather than expectations to be demanded. She knows genuine closeness develops through consistency and trust, not assumptions or empty promises. She is comfortable saying no when necessary. She is unafraid to expect honesty, reliability, and mutual effort. If someone continually offers only half-hearted commitment disguised as love, she calmly chooses to walk away. She never mistakes chemistry for true compatibility, nor does she build fantasies around someone's potential while ignoring their actions. She pays attention to character because lasting relationships are built on integrity rather than impressive words. She chooses people whose behavior consistently reflects their promises instead of those who simply speak beautifully. A woman with strong boundaries refuses to stay where she is merely tolerated. She belongs where she is truly appreciated, respected, and valued. That is one of the reasons she leaves such a lasting impression. She proves that gentleness and strength can exist together without conflict. She remains compassionate without allowing others to take her kindness for granted. She is able to forgive while still protecting her peace. She can love deeply without sacrificing her self-respect. She can honestly say, "I care about you," while also understanding that real love should never require her to accept repeated pain or disrespect. A man who truly values her naturally grows because her example encourages him to become a better version of himself. A man who refuses to grow quietly removes himself from her life, and either outcome brings her peace because she no longer measures her worth by who stays or who chooses to leave. Healthy boundaries transform relationships in remarkable ways. They give emotions direction, strengthen respect, and create room for genuine personal growth. Rather than limiting intimacy, they make authentic closeness possible because real love thrives wherever honesty, clarity, and mutual respect exist. A woman with healthy boundaries is never afraid of missing the wrong person. Her greatest priority is making sure she never loses herself while waiting for the right one. That quiet, inner strength is what truly sets her apart. The world is filled with people willing to change who they are just to receive affection. She chooses a different path. She stands firmly in her values, remains grounded in her identity, and feels complete within herself. She patiently waits for a love that complements the person she already is, instead of expecting her to abandon herself just to keep it. When a man meets a woman with that level of self-respect, he quickly realizes she is unlike anyone he has known before, because her strength is not something she performs. It is simply the person she has become. She becomes more than someone he remembers. She becomes the standard by which he measures future relationships. She becomes the mirror that reflects his true character and the inspiration that encourages him to become the man he is capable of being. Without using force, manipulation, or demands, she quietly teaches him what genuine respect looks like. Her presence alone communicates lessons that words could never fully express.